We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
To be alive. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Now, look, I might look a little dreamy, but that's on purpose. Because, see, what I did was I put a filter on because I have so much light in my room. And I didn't have time to go and try to pull everything down and close off the light. So you're getting a full view effect with a little filter from the sun. All right. How y'all doing this morning? It's great to be here. Of course, I'm your guest, your host. Well, maybe you could be my guest and I'll be your guest too. I'm just fumbling all over the place because you know how I get started in the morning. I got my cup of coffee, but it's not coffee this morning. It's my pomegranate juice. And I'm going to take a sip and say, welcome, 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 and welcome, and welcome. Welcome to Coffee Break Live with Senabella today. I'm excited to be here as always. I'm looking forward to today's podcast because I have a wonderful, wonderful person in the room who I have a very close attachment to. But more important than my attachment is that individually, she's just a really, really, really outstanding sister. And she's done some dynamic things. So if you're here in the room with me, you know what to do. Get ready to comment. Have a good time. Let's talk about the things that we're going to talk about. And we're going to find out, what is this connection of communication as human beings that we need to have in order to advance our lives so we can go forward? We're trying to go forward, folks. We're not just trying to talk. We want to have communication. And Kai is an expert in communication in many ways. She's just a dynamic sister. She's done some marvelous things. I'm going to pull up my notes real quick so I can talk about her, like not just as someone that I know, but someone that you should know as well if you don't. And she's seen as a visionary, and she's held position as editor and CEO of arts organizations. Her overall work history on the media side includes positions editor-in-chief, executive and contributing editor, writer, reporter for newspapers and magazines. She's contributed her skills as a multimedia and public relations consultant, accumulating a significant number of years and experience as a seasoned executive journalist, publisher, public relations and media training, marketing consultant for internal and external communication. Woo! I told her this morning, you know, when she came into the room before we got started, I thought I knew you, but then, you know, when you read about the person that you know, that gives you a whole nother established kind of feeling for them. So I feel like I should go, yes, Kai, yes, Kai. So without further delay, I'm going to bring Kai into the room, and I want to say good morning to those who are here. And right now, let's see what we got. We haven't got anybody speaking, but you know you can talk to me. So go ahead and let's get started. I'm going to start the conversation so we don't lose a moment, and you can get in here and have a good time with us as we talk. To everyone here who's listening and out there who's going to be a part of what we're doing, which I know you will, I'm Senabella, and guess who's here today? We have Kai Zabar. Good morning, Kai.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am fine, and you made me smile. I'm just tickled. You're the one. You're the one with the long resume and all these wonderful things you've done. I've been consistent, in the world that I'm in, but you have done so many fabulous, beautiful things in the creative world, and the world needs to know more. So we did write a story about it, so that's still available online about Senabella. She was a cover story at CNW Media. So check us out at the paper online.
Wonderful, wonderful. You did do that. Good morning, JJ. It's good to see you here this morning. JJ's in the room with us, Kai. She's
Hi, JJ.
yeah. So as they pile in, one of the things I tell them, I encourage them to comment and for us to have some kind of like three-way conversation. So just in case you're saying something, they want a little bit more insight, they will ask you, and you are definitely the person to ask because you are probably like overwhelmed, I imagine, sometimes with news, right?
Absolutely. And, part of being in the leadership position, you have to determine what is worthy of your time, to share with the public because everybody's sharing the news. So you want to make sure whatever it is that you choose to share and report, you have some sort of insight and expertise to it. I'm talking about on the spur of the moment. So that you get it right, because it's important that we make sure that we provide you with factual information.
Well, media has changed so much in a short span of, say, let's just say the last 3 years.
Yes.
We can go back to the last time we sat at Urban Broadcast Media in my office together. That's what, 2017, 18. And we were talking about news then. And at that time I think you had just completed your tenure working at the
Chicago Defender.
Right. And news was changing then. So
absolutely.
What has that climate been like for you from then to now?
Well, it places the media as we know it on the brinks of destruction. We have gone from being very, very determined and decided about when you're writing about the news or when you're reporting the news, that it's factual and that it comes from you and the research that you as a reporter had done and provide to your listening or reading audience. Today, there's AI. You don't have to write it, and those of us who have implemented that into their daily regime realize that it is not without, fallibilities. And you have to make sure that if you are going to use AI, that now you have to go back and fact check AI. So there's really no way of removing us from the process for those who are fearful of it. And I was one of those people. I really just didn't want to do that. But what I have learned, as we often do once we engage ourselves in something new, is its strengths and its weaknesses. And for me, I like to use AI as research, but you still have to go and check, the facts. But I like to use it as a research agent. So it's an engine. It can go, touch base with things that would take me hours, maybe sometimes days. That is a strength of AI. But all of us, and there's so many things that it can do. I don't think I'm interested anyway in using it as my voice, because who you are, Senabella, is just like you as a songstress. You don't want to give AI your voice and say, sing this song for me. It's not you. So you want to make sure you maintain your own individuality of expression, that thing that's very human about you. So that's important. But yeah, AI has been the real game changer since the last few years.
I like that you said individuality of expression, maintaining the individuality of expression. And it seems that even though people are speaking from opinions or sharing opinions of other people, one of the things that's really clear is they're learning that they have to have some individuality of expression, and that it's not as simple as we appear to think, that we think it is, right? Just
Right.
like for me doing this podcast, it's like, okay, every day, whenever I think about doing it, it's so much work. I say to myself, oh my God, this isn't that simple. So you have everything behind the scenes as well as what it is you're going to present to people. So it's a tedious task. It's an undertaking that you really should love and should care about in order to become a journalist, right? Someone who's going to report the news, write the news, disseminate the information. So, what has become, say, your model in doing that?
My model in doing what exactly?
Putting the news out.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I don't know if I have consciously thought about modeling after anyone, but I would say that, in growing up, you want to look at those professionals that have come before you and how they delivered the news. And so there have been several. I think what we at Chicago News Weekly and CNW Network um, want to make sure we do is to bring a professional decorum to the table, that we are respectful of our topic. We're respectful of those people that we engage with, whether it's for print interviews or live. And that means that you've done the research, not only on the topic, but of those individuals so that you know what they know and what they don't know and where they're going and what they meant to do, that kind of thing. And you have that discussion. You treat people um, with respect and you give them the opportunity to tell their truth. That's pretty much what we do, and make sure that you come prepared to the table with the facts out there. The worst thing you could do is have a conversation like this and not know, the facts of the subject and the individual to whom you are talking or interviewing or whatever the situation may be. And that could be disastrous. So we always want to come to the table prepared. I would say that's the motto. Come prepared.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's not like you're talking to your family, you're talking to the world, right? You're speaking to the world.
Right.
So, speaking to the world, one of the things that what we're discussing today is the communication between ourselves, right? What is the
Yes.
communication? How do we predict the forecast of good communication and how it has helped to aid us in, say, how we're moving things forward in the world? And that starts with the communication that you always speak of. You said we've got to talk to our kids, we've got to share this information. So, why don't we get into that a little bit and start to try to bridge that conversation so that we can be on task?
Well, I think that, in fact, it came up in a conversation that you and I and the other people were engaged in, exactly what you're saying. And the important thing is to understand that first, that each of us, in sharing any kind of information, um, people who are not researching that information, they are taking it, you know, um, from us and accepting that it's true. Whereas those of us who are presenting it, we do the research because it's our responsibility. So when we are talking to others, we want to make sure that we're providing them with the information and providing them with where they can go and check it out for themselves so that they don't sound like they just took some information and it's okay. It's very important for all of us right now to make sure that the information that we receive and we choose to share, that we check it out and make sure that, it's information that's factual. Otherwise, we're just in the mix of some kind of conversation that doesn't necessarily ring true. And we want to make sure that we're providing information that is truthful.
Well, one of the things that I find that is kind of difficult for me when I'm reading or discovering news like the deaths of two of our great people in Chicago, Spencer Lee Jr., God rest his soul, he passed. And I
Yeah.
kept looking for the information that would tell me what happened to him. And I mean, it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And so I knew that he had passed. I was moved by this situation because all of us have had some kind of dealings with Spencer Lee Jr. He was just a really phenomenal human being, and his
Yeah.
father certainly groomed him properly. And that's really what we're trying to what we're talking about today here is that grooming situation. He was such a stellar individual. And then you go back to the Jacksons and when they buried their father, the Honorable Jesse Jackson Jr. And that same instance was there. That grooming was there. They were prepared to speak. They were prepared to move forward. Now, just how do you see us moving forward in our conversations with our children, with the youth, in order to move them on? We've got so many things to be a task with kids today. I mean, they're doing it all. They are having raves to steal and tear things up. In some cases, they're at beaches having hip hop parties. And it's not that it's not okay to party and celebrate, but what do we need to do from your perspective?
Well, I think a lot of things have occurred to bring us to this particular space and place in life. For instance, in our age group, we grew up with it being mandated that we respect our parents. And our parents were of that generation where they demanded it. They were, and they got it from us. Things changed. Our culture was directly impacted by drugs. Our children became parents earlier than they were prepared for. A lot of them were engaged in things that took them outside of a sense of responsibility. So you have very, very young mothers without fathers necessarily being engaged every day with them raising their children. And they're still kids. And so they grow up, if they're 15 years old giving birth or 13 years old giving birth, they grow up with their child.
Hmm.
And you see so much of that. And then you have other kinds of things that infiltrate that the psyche there and the lifestyle. And so our children are without the kind of supervision, the kind of authoritative instruction from parents that mean what they say. If I if I'm 16 or 17, I don't know, maybe 25 or something, and you're 10, yeah, 15, okay. Um, we're on the same wavelength. We become more friends than we are parents to our kids. And they are going the same places, doing the same things. The ability to really distinguish the roles become blurred. And so we have a mess. We have a lot of this. And it's scary because we haven't really taken time. When I say we, I'm talking about as a people, to say, this is happening. And what can we do to change it? And not depend on those governmental agencies, welfare, whatever it is that's going to take the problem. Where are we as an extended community, as extended family? That's what has to happen. Our children are besides themselves because they have been raised by children who have not been taught to be responsible.
Well, that's the point I was about to interject while you're speaking. I apologize. But yeah, my mother was a young mother and she had 16 children. She eventually raised 14 that lived, right? Mother and father.
Right.
I think the difference is that not so much that they're young when they're having the children, is what were their instructions as they were coming up. Our parents were young.
Oh, my grandmother was 15 when she got married,
That's what
so I understand that. But yes, in the
they
context
were
that you're speaking of, that's what we're talking about.
they had instructions. They had a community that had a standard. And
Right.
our community is so divided, whatever the standards are, they're just wherever they are. And so we encounter all these different types of youth and adults who have not
Yeah.
been necessarily fully raised and say prepared to come out. Even if I have to say honestly, I even encounter young girls and guys who are gone to college and just as wild as they could be. So it isn't about the education always, but it helps. Education does give them the advancement to at least hope and to provide a better future for themselves. But when you start thinking community, that's where the instruction becomes important. Because when we step out the door, like my mother used to say, don't you go empty that garbage looking like that. Go put a scarf on your head or something. You're not going to leave the house like that. Girl, please. Now, buckets are norm.
Yes. So what we're talking about when we talk about education, because generations before the current generations of our parents, they were not necessarily college educated. Some of them had not even completed high school. But one thing we know to be true, Isabella, is that they were intelligent and that they utilized that intelligence out of respect for what their responsibilities were and what they had to do. They had not been totally influenced by outside forces like our children fight and face today. They don't even, or parents fight that. You have no idea what information your child is, victim of, or, a recipient of in terms of it being good. But the point is that there's just information coming from everywhere. The information highways are so make our children so susceptible and vulnerable to things. If we have not sat down with them, like our parents really did, we had rules that we had to deal with, whatever time it was. I'm just going to throw this out, but 8:30, you had to turn the TV on. You had to go to bed at a certain time. Did you finish your homework? We were engaged. We sat down at dinner tables, most of us, and had dinner, and you talked about what happened. This was strengthening not only the family, but also the respect for your parents. Our parents demanded respect of us and let us know ahead of time, you will be respectful in this house or you will not be here.
Well, let me just say this, because we have two big situations happening in the media right now about the young man who was killed as he left the store.
Yeah.
He tried to escape becoming a victim and ended up being victimized by death. And then we have the young man who is being victimized by protecting himself through a death. And I don't see an absence of parenting there, but I see and I understand better the absence of society. The societal role to, one, be the honorable stature of what it is we're talking about, and having that become what our children and who are out in society, depending on governmental or say community forecasts, to protect us, to stop and say, hey, slap on the wrist or the hand. You know what I'm saying? You didn't do this right, and we're concerned about you. And so we need to make sure that you're not here to steal. Did you steal the water? Ask the question, right? What happened? How did you end up?
Right.
I just shared with you before I came on that I had two policemen help me downtown when I came out of the Aon Center after receiving an award, and my car was towed, and they treated me with such regard.
Yeah.
Right? But
yes.
It wouldn't have been, I'm not going to say they wouldn't have done it, but they did it. And it made me really think, wow, I didn't anticipate them being so kind and respectful and honorable in their roles as policemen, given the forecast of what we see and think about. But with our children out here being killed, sent to prison, and it's just such a rash amount of it. Can you speak to that?
What exactly? The police
reaction
or the behavior of our youth?
No, not the behavior of our youth, but what it is we're responsible for.
Okay. Yeah.
How do we responsibly enter or change the forecast? It's more than protesting. It's more than saying they're wrong. It's more than saying, I'm going to stop shopping. What are we going to do to make sure our kids our families, our communities are safe? What communication needs to be on the ground from
I
us?
think, yeah, I'm sorry. I think that you've hit on a very important question that we as adults, leaders, etc., have to really ponder going forward. And I say that because we grew up in an era or time where our direct education of leadership and human respect and regard came directly from our parents, was supported by our community, um, our teachers, our ministers, imams, what have you. All of that, our grandparents, everyone was of a mindset that was congenial and in agreement with the greater community. Today, you can live through social media and not have and totally abandon what you've been taught because you are attracted or drawn to someone else saying something else. The fact that we have our phones with us 24/24 all the time, able to receive information, instruction constantly, and not even realizing a form of brainwashing. It's a conditioning. And so you're talking to your child, but they hear you, they're like, yeah, but they are more tuned in. They spend more time with their outside social media, trust me, than they do in discussion with you or any adult.
I want
And
to
this
respond
this
to
is a
that.
problem.
I want to respond to that, but let's take a quick break and come back. Folks, stick with us. I have something important I think I want to say when we come back, just to add to what you're saying, Kai. We'll be right back. Let's take this short break. Remember to like and share this here content. We'll be right back with Kyle Zabar.
When you see Black children misbehaving in public, being loud, disrespectful, and destructive, do you think to yourself, what they need is a good beating? That's what's wrong with these parents. They don't know how to discipline their children. Were you disciplined in that way? And did your parents also call you stupid, ignorant, and lazy? That's the way you break a slave. You terrorize them with constant fear of painful punishment. You teach them they're powerless to speak up. And you insult them so they feel like nothing. We were broken by parents who were broken, by parents who were broken. It's time to end the cycle of brokenness and bring healing to ourselves and our communities by using knowledge, respect, and love. We'll show you how. I'm Naima Latif. Get the book Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. On sale now. Go to www.naimalatif.com.
How about that? So there's a
Powerful, insightful.
yes. Naeem is quite insightful. In fact, she is the executive producer and founder of the Female Solution. And it's something
Okay.
that she came up with a long time ago. So all of the people here on this here in this broadcast area with that have put up podcasts and stuff here at Female Solution came through her selective process, and to make sure that messaging goes out from in different voices, right? And so,
Yes.
just speaking of voices and different messages, it is important that the message that the children has is the same one society has.
Well, I think our orientation, to your point, to society, um, was very different because we didn't have the social media world and all of those things that are
But
just
guys, before you go forward, but we did have the voices of the church. We had the voices of the community. We
no. And I'm gonna,
like
I'm
yeah,
going there with you. But what I'm saying is the way we received, okay, and the way information was imparted to us was more natural and humane because if you were going to the church, you were a participant in it, or you listened to it on radio. But the bottom line is that you engaged in it on an entirely different way of how we engage in the world today. And I think that, like I was observing, I want to go back. I think that, and I'm leading to what I was observing the other day, were like maybe four young women, they could have been anywhere from 14, 15, 16, that kind of thing. They were all in a group, and I'm really looking at them, and they all have their phones, and they're on their phones, and they're laughing. They were actually having a conversation in the space of each other through the phones. And I thought, oh my God, what is going on? That is what we're talking about here, that there's a disconnect in our abilities or choice to actually engage with one another. And yet the human calling says, yes, we want to be together. So they're together, but they're not talking. Right? I don't experience,
You think that this is
Senabella's beautiful voice or tenure of her whatever. And she has the opportunity when she's talking to me to express that feeling, and she starts singing. All of this is being interrupted by our dependence on technology. It takes away from our human expression, right? And we think we're really experiencing one another. No, we're not.
but
We're
how does that relate to what is happening though? The violence.
that's how it relates, because our children are so disassociated with reality, and they don't know it. I'll give you an example. I'm trying to, when it was Laquan McDonald, we were marching, and this had to be 2015 or 2014, I think 2015, 2016. And we were on Michigan. The police were lined up to protect those stores because we were, on the Gold Coast, and to protect all those stories. And I can't remember his name, but there was one group marching up Michigan, and then Reverend Jesse Jackson's group was coming up Chicago, and it was like this: we're going to intersect. And I watched the young people I can't think of the young man's name, the group that was leading the young people, going up, approaching policemen standing in what do they call it? Riot gear, doing stuff in their faces like this, just aggravate. I was like, what is wrong with these kids, right? And having no reality that policeman may beat you with a stick in a minute if you keep agitating him. You don't do that.
And I
That
think also that they're not aware of how the law protects them. And if the law isn't protecting them within those rights that they have, if they are not even instructed properly in how to go about using the laws that we have in place in order so that everybody can do what they're doing. But it does first start with some decorum.
There you go. And we've lost that because we're not engaging directly with one another. We're hiding behind.
That you people wanted their kids to be able to speak back. And
Yes.
like my house, it was like, oh, you're gonna wait till my mother finish,
Right.
my daddy finish. But
Right.
today, every kid and every person thinks they have a voice. So when they're outside and something happens, they all in your face, telling you how they feel and what they think. They're not thinking of outcome. They're thinking of just being present, having their opportunity to say, I know my rights, I know the laws, but you're in front of a person who may not know that.
That's
Or
right. And
care about.
we do want them, because this is not a discussion, that, Senabella, about taking away anyone's rights, denying them self-expression. That's what we live for. We wouldn't have a Senabella if you were not, personally self-expressed. So we're not talking about suppressing that. We're talking about the word that you just mentioned, decorum. We're talking about protocols. We're talking about, rules of engagement. These things are important. And somehow we have failed our younger generations and not conveying or really teaching how important that is in terms of us communicating with one another. Like, I have to listen as you are speaking in order to respond, right, to what you are sharing. There's information that you impart that can be of big service and contribution to me and may even extend my life. But if you're so busy, just ready to say something without acknowledging that there's some information over here that can be helpful, that's a loss. And so we have a lot of that going on. I may have shared with you one day I was in the South Loop crossing the street, and there was a group of children on the other side of the street coming towards me because we were crossing together. And one of the little girls was walking backwards because she was talking to her people. So she doesn't even see me, and her friends don't say, watch out, whatever. So I put my hand up, like this to stop her from running into me. This was her back. I didn't do anything like that. I just put it there to stop her. She turns around and starts cursing me out and saying, don't touch me, don't touch me. I was like, what? Wait a minute, little girl. And I did that. I just went into that one. I said, you ran into me because you were not watching where you were going. You were walking backwards. And why would you do that crossing the street? There's traffic that still could come that way, regardless if we have the walk light. You don't know what these people are going to do. So you just gave that up, your responsibility. And that was also your responsibility to pay attention to who's walking in front of you. So all the other kids, ooh, and I said to stop that. This is not what that's about. Now, I'm only sharing that with you not to get into the whole thing, but to say, because the way we grew up, the way we were groomed, we're the adults in the room, and we are going to teach in that moment. All right. That is not what's happening on a huge level at this time. And a lot of people in our generation have just given up because they scared the person gonna shoot them or something, which is legitimate. I mean, what do we do, Senabella? We have got to corral our children, our youth back into the room and earn their respect, because apparently right now they do not respect us, right? So we have to earn that. But we have to also communicate to them that we have so much information and knowledge that can be helpful to them to be themselves. We're not trying to tell you how to be, but we are talking about the tools you need to navigate going forward in life.
Right. And I think that some of the responsibility that we've had, which I have undertaken with my adult children, my offspring, I undertake communication with them today that's sensitive to today, because they are my grandchildren, right? And so I want to make sure that this communication is filtered down properly. And in order to do that, we have to be sensitive to what's happening.
Yes.
But more importantly, it's not so much that you have a voice, it's what are you doing with your voice? So when you choose to say something or do something, even if it's in a moment of quick reaction, thinking that something you did was not wrong, like the young lady with her walking and you having your hand up to protect yourself, because you realize she's not paying attention, but she doesn't have the social, we call them social graces and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, our society lacks any social discipline. Every group of people, I'm just going to say human beings as a whole, they're getting on and saying any kind of things, doing all kinds of things, and it's inciting all kind of violent reactions.
Yes.
And people who are already thinking violently now feel like, hey, it's a good time for me to go shoot up, bang up. It's a good time for me. This young man who died, who was the co-owner of chemistry.
Yeah.
For him to have died the way he did, right in this right part of his life. And let me tell you, the food and his work and stuff was phenomenal. And many of ours are being lost, ours being the human race. I just
Yes.
want to be really clear about that.
Yes.
I'm just I'm tired of hearing about people dying, being killed. I'm tired of people feeling like it. I love that people want to apologize and now talk about, well, we didn't do this and we were racially profiling you and all of that. I get it. That conversation is important. But what is the fallback, right? Now that you express that you realize that these things are wrong, our children, ourselves, we still need to learn how to accept apology. We need to learn how to deal with apologies. Apologies are just not a set standard of everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And that's another big part of the communication. It's not okay. Now, if those policemen who were kind to me that day, they took me down to go get my car, right? The way that they instructed themselves with me, I walked away feeling like the queen of everything because they cared enough for me and respect to get me to my car and make sure I was inside properly and taken care of. And I'm just a somebody out here trying to figure out what happened to my car that I paid for to be parked here, right? But if we all took that moment and we stop and think about how we're interacting with someone, even in a crisis, even when my car was missing, I didn't go, oh, they took my car and go find the police. You know what? They took my car. Had I approached them that way, probably with a different outcome.
Yeah.
But because I chose to say, excuse me, sir, I'm sorry, but I think my car is towed. Can you help me? And then he looks me up and down and he begins his dialogue with me, which ends up being a 20, 30-minute piece that could have been completely different right at the Blues Fest at the Aeon Center downtown on Randolph. So we need real coping mechanisms right now to get to communication that is not just about how I feel.
Well, I think that you hit on a most important, point. You approach them from a space of mutual respect. And basically, most policemen, they don't want to be in the shoot ups and the bang bangs and the horrific things that result in someone's death. They really just want to be appreciated and valued. Most of them, not all of them. There are some who have malice intentions, but you understand what I'm saying. And you acknowledge them from a space of respect, and all they could do is respond like, yes, we want to help you. How can we help you? And I think that all of that, the engaging and how we engage, has been in many ways misinterpreted, by our youth. They might think you're sucking up, whatever they want to, however they want to call it. But the bottom line is that you are seeking to communicate in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And that was, where's my car? Are y'all gonna help me?
And I need some help,
I
right?
need some help.
I'm dressed up
And
and
there's
not
nothing
ready to walk down the pavement to go
right,
look.
and there's nothing wrong with that. And they ended up assisting you. I just feel, Senabella, that I don't even know where to begin, but I know we just begin where we start, if that makes sense. Because there's so much needed in terms of our voices right now. Otherwise, we can leave this planet and not have contributed to the growth and evolution of our youth right now. If
Or
we're not talking to
our
our
lives
right,
will be the contribution.
right,
And
right, and
instead
so
of
that's important.
being a part of an example and succeeding in life, to see what
Right,
our actions and words were, we now are death memorials to whatever the new
right,
structure of the planet
right.
is going to be made into.
And I just want to say one last thing. We're of that generation, because I'm older than you, but we're of that generation where we were taught to be of service, not just to ourselves, but to our communities. We wanted to make a difference, in the growth of our communities. This is just something innate in us. I don't do it for the glory or for that. And when people recognize what you're doing, that's all the better. But you do it because it's something natural for you to contribute and making a difference in where we're going. And it's wonderful when other people see you, but that's not your motivation. The motivation is the difference that you make, you know, in the lives of others, which could mean the longevity of their life, even, you
Yeah.
know, or them going someplace else. I mean, we have to really
What you
understand
just
that.
said is so important, though, Kai. It's like if we leave the door
Yeah.
knowing that happenstance is there, that
Yeah.
there, you know, you a mouse could run over your foot, and all of a sudden you're startled. It doesn't have to be human beings. You know how
That's right.
you walk down the street and you skip and you hit the pavement that's higher than the other one. You know,
Right.
used to be, I don't know, I haven't done it in a long time, but I've done it. But things happen when you're out and you want to count on your social experience to be one of kindness.
Yes.
And so I make it in fact, you know what, this weekend I'm going to take my phone out with me and I'm going to say hello to people and speak to them and see who talks back to me.
Okay. I can't wait to see that.
I'm gonna do a social experience because when I go out, I talk to everybody. Everybody,
Um,
hey, how you doing? I'm either Miss Bella, Miss Gill, Senabella, or hey, how you doing? Oh, I see you. Because I want to make it a point for them to know I'm here. Why?
yeah.
It's a security measure for me in most cases.
Yeah.
I'm walking and I'm by myself and people are not paying attention to each other. Something can happen to me and somebody might say, oh, but if they see that I'm normally out, I'm normally in good shape, and then all of a sudden I'm visibly shaken, that may change how they deal with whatever they see me going through. Whether I
Absolutely.
slip and fall, whether there's someone who hits me with a car, whether or not I just, stop and stand there too long. We need to understand that we have to have communication in ways that helps to master the depth and internal spiritual vibe of society.
So what you're talking about is our consciousness being at all times in awareness mode. And a lot of us are not there anymore. We're too engaged, on the phone or whatever. But when you walk outside, you better be, your radar should go and check out what's in front of you and what's, even behind you. You have to do these things to just survive as human beings. And that doesn't mean that you should be paranoid. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about a heightened level of awareness and consciousness and how to deal. And I was just tickled when you're like, oh, and I want to go talk to everybody. That, I mean, you and I are social beings in such a different ways. I find that fascinating. I'm not that person, even though I think I'd like to sit back, observe it, and write about it more. Of course, I'm going to interview some people, but you just have that bubbly personality and curiosity and engagement that has done what fueled and provided you the kind of beauty that you contribute to your music. And that's that. The differences I'm talking about are the things that make us all unique individuals. No one or all of us are alike. And we have to learn to be respectful of our differences and see the beauty in it, right? And I can say, oh God, I wish I could sing like Senabella, but I can't, at least not yet.
Or call us Saeed, or I wish, yeah, I hear all that. One
But
of
it's
the
really about us loving each other is really what the word I wanted to use.
Kai, one of the things that I do see in society today is the love fest is real with black on black love. Baby girl, what? Oh my God. It's like if I'm in the supermarket and I see a group of Gen Xers and I say hello, they're so hello and they're so excited to talk to me. And I'm like, oh my God, it's wonderful, the whole love fest in that regard. But when we're talking about other things, I want to make sure that we can put a stamp on this that speaks to uh, the love in communication
Yeah.
and how that's packaged. and how to use it properly. And maybe we do need to have a town hall where we come together. Maybe CNW can have a town hall and we can have a talk fest, right? A talk fest, and we can talk about communication and how that skill can go forward and help us, you know, and and we can kind of eradicate this classism, right?
And when did that happen?
Just got so much classism going on. I'm like, and that's another thing I've been complaining about. We don't need more celebrities. We need more leadership. We need more, and even leadership. We don't need more leadership. We need leadership to be within us. Like, when I was in school working with the kids, one of the greatest things that I did was find the children who wanted to be out front. And instead of them making noise and interrupting all the time because they had more to think about and say, I turned them into leaders, allowed them to lead the group, to have a voice,
right?
How to be direct those messages. It's important that people know that they have a voice and they can use it. But how do we do that?
Yeah, and you have to practice. And some of us naturally grew up. If you were one of the older children, you had a leadership position. Yeah, younger kids knew, okay, I've got to learn how to do that at some point in time. But right now, I got to pay attention to the leadership that's in charge right now. All of these are learning situations that, of course, support you and enable you to function in society as an adult. When you don't have that and there's no respect or any regard for anyone in the household, and you're just, as we would say, disrespectful to everyone, well, what do you think it's going to be like outside of that house? So all of these things that you are talking about are things that, yes, we have to come together and begin to talk about it, because our generation, we're not going to be here on the planet forever. We're just not.
Well, I just want to make sure that we highlight a couple of responses that we've had, because it is important to show that. Abantu say this topic is so important. Yes, our parents shared instilled parameters and respect for people and things. And then JJ says, many youths don't have the structure that we had. We had our great grandma.
That's right.
Mom, dad, aunts, uncles, etc., to keep us in line. But more importantly, outside of what they said, what we're saying here, I think, really is going to hit the mark if we take advantage of the opportunity we have in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't social media's part. It isn't social media's fault that we don't know how to act.
No,
it isn't. Right? It no. Is. It isn't just about a man killing a child or a child tearing up stores in response to how things have been in their lives. These are their outbursts. This is what they're doing, but it's not okay. It's not acceptable. And I want to say, I don't want to turn my car and go 6 blocks to get away from the children. I want to get out my car and walk into the children. And I want them to understand my presence means that I see you and I want your safety, but I want mine as well.
Yeah.
And I used to do it, but I can't anymore because they're so raucous. They're like, and so you have to step back and you're concerned. And it isn't just about the children who are rambunctious and having their day, but it's about the children who aren't and who are also trying to move forward and to come to the beaches and to be outside. And it's also about, and I'm going to say this, and I would like you to speak on it for a minute. Community is in little bubbles. What do you think about that? Little bitty bubbles. If we, from neighborhood to neighborhood, a community, if you're good in your community, you can be good in other communities. Can you
Absolutely.
Let's talk about
what you're talking about, though, is when we, as a large group, right, of people, so we can just say Black people, we had a way in which we did things. I mean, I laugh about this all the time. I tell people, I said, look, think about this. What was the one thing your mother would always say to you, and every Black person in the world knew it? What was it? It would say, they would always tell us to make sure we had on clean underwear. Tell me why, Senabella.
Wait a minute. Ask me.
I
You
said
said,
our mothers, every Black person in our from our generation down would tell their kids, make sure you have on clean underwear. Why?
I'm gonna tell you, I can't.
Okay. So the
Just
thing
hearing,
that
I've never heard that
the
in
answer was, in case you're in an accident and you have to go to the
Oh,
hospital, you have on clean underwear. You know that. That's what they used to tell us. This was just something across
forgot
the board.
look, you got me on that one.
Did you forget?
Totally.
But you know. So all I'm simply saying is
They would see that.
we have got to find ways to impart helpful information to our children again that is across the board. There's just certain things. Fathers talk to their sons about, the police and how to handle these things, what to do and what not to do. I mean, they're just there. So those are just some things, but on a greater level of significance, we want to really impart to our children always, information that is going to provide them the ability to grow, to live, grow, strive, and be successful in whatever they choose their endeavors to be. This is what we want. They want it too. They just may not be able to articulate that. They want
Absolutely.
to, right? They
Because
want to have fun. They
their
want to
parents,
enjoy life. But there's a way to do that. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Senabella. It goes back to all those things we're talking about. We're talking about decorum. We're talking about protocols. We're talking about, how to be polite in certain situations and just being respectful. These are all the things and more that we're talking about. And it's not that hard. Our kids think, you know how your mother would say hello to somebody and you go, whatever.
oh,
And some people think that was being phony. No, that was just, a means to clear the way, and these are the kinds of conversations that we're I don't know, I can't say we're not having, we are having, but a lot of it's not happening in a lot of homes, and it
I'll say,
needs it
I'll
needs to
say
happen.
this. I'll say this, that when I worked on the West Side in the schools, one of the first things that I realized in going to the West Side before I finally just said I need to move over here because it was like I was there all the time.
Yeah.
And was that they said hello every morning. Everywhere you went, they were like, hello, good morning. Oh my good God, I can't get out my car without
But
somebody.
that used to be the way they did everywhere.
So what it did was it instructed me on who I was about to teach.
Ah,
What was my education going to be? How was I going to provide something that was systemic to what they were already?
right.
They had community.
Yeah.
And the community I was living in at the time was Hyde Park, which was social, but not community. And so everything I did was centered around their needs, their desires, and what they already had structured.
Yeah.
I just helped to build from that foundation, and that's why it became a successful program. But at
Wow.
the end of the day, we're not listening to one another.
No.
We're not caring for one another, and we listen waiting to do something different.
Yes. Everybody wants to be a superstar, either online or in music, in dance, somewhere, not realizing that if you're a good mother, if you're a good sister, if you're a good wife or husband, you are a superstar. It's not about, and that's what this new social media world has done, is made everyone envious of something that is frivolous. You know what I'm saying? It just is. It comes and goes. Just be good at being self-expressed and being a decent human being first towards yourself. Respect and love yourself. And that enables you to be that way with other people.
It makes it hard for somebody to be mean to you if you're just, because they're gonna get their worst out. Some people are
Yeah.
just gonna do that, but
Yeah.
you'll find the majority of the time that if you really, when you're out, if you're caring about what yourself first, my self-respect, the honor of myself, which means that I am going to care about what I say, how I walk, what I'm doing, and what I engage in once I'm past my door. Actually, I care about it in my door. I care about it inside my home. So all of the socialization starts right within your home.
That's right.
And I'm going to say this. My mother used to say, if you didn't clean the house and you combed your hair, you have not done what you were supposed to do.
Absolutely not.
So you knew there, it started inside, and that planted a seed that grew inside of you to become the human being you'd be when you encountered other human beings.
Right.
And they didn't say it for color. They didn't say, and for some parents they did, because a lot of us had come through some very terrible times, which we're existing in now. And we have to talk about security. But the security starts with the communication you have with yourself.
Yeah.
And the training that you take out to the streets, and then the training you take to your jobs, and all of this other thing. Stop trying to be a celebrity. You will be you'll be celebrated for being who you are.
There it is, and that's the distinction. Being celebrated for who you are. Your motivation should be: can I be the best that I can be, and not, ooh, I want to be a superstar. There it is. Well, that's the difference.
We've had some beautiful comments throughout the course of this here great conversation, Kai. And I want to thank you so much for loving and respecting me and honoring me enough to come here and show up today. You are one of my lights. You're my best bestie. And you're also my mentor. I absolutely love and adore you. And I know all those who know you love and adore you. And I'm so happy to present you here today on Coffee Break. And just take a minute and say something before we close out. We're already over time, but I want you to have your.
I just want to say it's mutual, people. I love her dearly, and everything that she said about me is true of her. I am just so happy that we took this opportunity this morning that I get to share with her fabulous audience. Thank all of you. I know that you're beautiful people, and whatever you got from today, just take it and run with it, because I want to see your beauty expressed throughout the world.
I'm throwing up these last little comments because they're cute and we didn't get a chance to say them, but they are really something. And I'm really happy to see my dear friend Aaron Johnson in, and he says respect. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We're about to close out. This is Senabella and Kai Zabar of Chicago News Weekly. And we're going to talk about their town hall thing too. You can believe I'm coming back with that.
Okay, I'm ready.
You all have a great day. This is Coffee Break Live. And hey, it's the weekend. It's the weekend. We're going to talk inside out. Inside out. Love you guys.
Have a great day.
Love you all. Thank you so much.